The sky above northern Germany burns a pale, frozen blue. It's March 4th, 1944, the day the impossible becomes real. Captain Robert Mack Johnson, 352nd Fighter Group, checks his oxygen flow and glances at the shimmering horizon. Far ahead, like a silver river stretching across the heavens, are the B-17 Flying Fortresses, hundreds of them heading straight for Berlin. Berlin, he whispers through his mask. We're actually going to Berlin. For months, bomber crews had flown into Germany alone, dying by the thousands under the guns of the Luftwaffe. Fighter escorts simply couldn't reach that far. The P-47 Thunderbolt and the P-38 Lightning lacked the range, but today something new glints in the morning light. Sleek silver aircraft with shark-like noses and elliptical wings. The P-51 Mustang has arrived. Over 700 miles from their base in England, the Mustangs are pushing into airspace no American fighter has ever survived. Each carries 2 drop tanks, their Merlin engines humming at 2,700 RPM. Major Hub Zemke, leading the 56th Fighter Group, had called it suicidal. But Colonel Don Blakesley, commanding the 4th Fighter Group, had answered simply, "We're going to Berlin, and we're not turning back." Inside German radar rooms, sirens screamed alive. Luftwaffe controllers shout barons in clipped German. Achtung, Feinflug, hundreds of bombers, escorted by single-engine fighters. That last phrase chills every man in the room. Single-engine fighters over Berlin. Until this morning, that was aerodynamically impossible. At an airfield near Wittenberg, Oberleutnant Erich Hartmann, already credited with 250 victories, throws on his flight jacket. He knows what's coming, and he doesn't believe it. "They said Mustangs," his mechanic mutters. "They can't be Mustangs. England is too far." "We'll see," Hartmann replies grimly, climbing into his Bf 109 G6. Moments later, the sky erupts. Silver and black aircraft twist together above the bombers, contrails curling like scars across the pale winter sky. The Luftwaffe's last elite squadrons, JJ-26, JJ-54, JJ-11, clash with the American newcomers. What happens next will change the war. At 27,000 feet, Captain Johnson's Mustang rolls into a dive, his .650 caliber Browning machine gun spitting fire. A Messerschmitt bursts into flames and tumbles through the contrails. For the first time since 1940, the Luftwaffe is being hunted over its own capital. The German aces, who once struck with impunity, now find themselves chased all the way back to their bases by fighters that, hours earlier, had taken off from England. The age of distance is over. The age of the Mustang has begun. The battle over Berlin begins as a whisper, then erupts into a storm of fire and steel. Radio chatter fills the ether. Red flight, tally-ho, bandits, 11 o'clock high. Copy that, Red 2, let's dance. At 25,000 feet, the air is thin, the cold biting through the canopy glass. Captain Johnson pulls hard on the stick. The Mustang's wings flex under G-force. He locks onto a FW-190 diving toward the bombers. 6 Brownings roar, the German fighter disintegrates mid-air. A white parachute blossoms, then catches fire. In the distance, silver fortresses plow through anti-aircraft flak, their formation tight as a wall of willpower. They've never had protection this deep before. For the first time, the bombers aren't dying alone. Down below, in the smoke-stained control rooms of the Luftwaffe, panic spreads faster than radio signals. Feindjäger über Berlin, Mustangs, über all Mustangs. Enemy fighters over Berlin, Mustangs everywhere. Colonel Johannes Steinhoff later recalled that moment. We realized then the Americans had won the sky. The once invincible German Air Force, now outnumbered, outfueled, and outtrained, was fighting ghosts. Ghosts that came from across the sea, flew thousands of kilometers, and still had fuel to fight over Berlin itself. At the edge of the city, Hartmann's 109 slices through a formation of Mustangs. He's fast, impossibly fast, but the Merlin engines sing behind him like hounds on a scent. He twists, dives, rolls. The P-51s follow effortlessly. He pulls into a climb, stalls, then flips downward. One Mustang overshoots, another lines up a shot. Tracer fire rips past. Hartmann snaps into a dive so steep his wings nearly fold. His radio crackles with static and screams. Achtung! Achtung! Mehr Mustangs über Potsdam! More Mustangs over Potsdam. Even for Germany's best, it's too much. Back above the bombers, Captain Johnson's oxygen gauge flickers. He's been airborne for nearly 6 hours. Fuel's running low. His wingman's voice comes over the radio. Lead, we're almost dry. We've got to turn back. Negative. Stay with the forts until IP. We cover them home. Those were the orders. Escort the bombers all the way. By 1400 hours, Berlin's anti-aircraft guns are silent, their barrels overheated, crews exhausted. The last few Luftwaffe fighters vanish into cloud. The bombers drop their loads on the industrial heart of the Reich. Smoke and fire rise into the winter sky. As the formations turn west, the Mustangs peel off, low on fuel but victorious. Behind them, the German capital burns. Captain Johnson looks back through his canopy. He doesn't feel triumph, only silence. We made it, his wingman says softly. Yeah, Johnson replies, but look at that. Below them, Berlin is a scar, the cost of dominance written in smoke. That day, March 4th, 1944, marked a new age of warfare. For the first time in history, long-range fighters had pierced the heart of a nation thought untouchable. The Luftwaffe would never recover. Within 6 months, German air power was broken, and the name Mustang, once unknown, became synonymous with freedom, fear, and the future of aerial combat. In the weeks after the Berlin mission, the Mustang became more than a fighter. It became a message. Every sortie that followed reached deeper into Germany, Leipzig, Hanover, Munich, and always the Silver Wings returned home. The Luftwaffe tried everything, new tactics, new aircraft, even desperation, but no amount of courage could stop exhaustion. Fuel was scarce. Pilots were teenagers. Training lasted weeks, not months. And waiting for them above the clouds were Mustangs. In April 1944, a Luftwaffe ace wrote in his diary, "Every time we take off, they are there. They know our routes, our altitude, our fear." He called them Die Geister von Berlin, the ghosts of Berlin. They seemed to appear from nowhere, silent, silver, relentless. No matter how fast the Germans climbed, the P-51s were already there. By summer, American bombers could strike any target in the Reich without catastrophic loss. Factories stopped producing at full capacity. Fuel refineries burned for days. The Luftwaffe, once Europe's terror, was now fighting with remnants. Even Erich Hartmann, the blonde knight, could no longer find organized squadrons to lead. He would later say, "We were lions fighting ghosts." At bases across England, P-51 crews watched the tide of war shift beneath their wings. They had turned defense into pursuit and pursuit into dominance. Yet victory came with a cost. Out of every 100 Mustang pilots, nearly 25 never returned. Fuel starvation, flak bursts, and endless sky took their toll. Some vanished into the North Sea, some crashed in burning fields of France. Their names etched only into metal tag and the memory of those who followed. But the legend of the Mustang lived on. It wasn't just the engine or the design, it was what it represented: reach, endurance, and courage at impossible odds. When American bombers finally flew over Berlin without a single German fighter in sight, pilots radioed home one phrase: "The skies are ours." In the ruins of post-war Europe, the Mustang became a symbol of technology meeting tenacity. It had carried men from English fields to the heart of the enemy and back again. It ended the myth of invincibility, and it paved the way for the jet age that followed. History remembers the P-51 as the perfect machine, but in truth, it was born from desperation, for range, for protection, for hope. From the factories of North American aviation to the skies above Berlin, it proved that innovation and resolve could change the course of a world at war. The Luftwaffe fell not in a single battle, but in 1,000 dogfights, each one echoing the same sound, the roar of a Merlin engine at full throttle. That sound was the sound of victory. A single Mustang silhouette crosses the setting sun. Text fades in. To the men who flew farther than anyone believed possible and changed the meaning of air power forever.